felt like this was how it was going to end up anyways. I felt like I didn't even have to watch the game to figure out who we were going to play. It just felt like that was going to be the matchup that we were going to have, and it's one of those things where it's going to be two good teams battling each other. So looking forward to having a lot of fun competing against another really good team.
I same thing obviously, but I feel like this may also be like a series or a moment where baseball may have to think about restructuring the way that the playoffs happen. 106 and 107 wins, doesn't feel like a DS matchup, especially because the season is so long for two teams to win that many games, and then one of them to have to go home, this early. But that being said, obviously, same kind of sentiment. We knew that we were going to have to go through them, and they're going to have to go through us to get to the World Series. So, better get it out of the way early.
Next question. In the back, Dylan.
Hey guys, with Gabe Kapler, how just kind of important has he been, and just kind of the way his demeanor is in terms of just getting you guys right, integrating all the analytics and stuff, and getting kind of the buy-in of the clubhouse?
We don't really, at least, as a group or from the outside, talk about analytics all that much. Obviously there's an understanding that a lot of the way that the lineups and the way that we kind of go about the game, a lot of it is analytically based. But I think that's been part of the reason why there's a lot of buy-in, is because it's not like, kind of this like cookie cutter approach. There's like a more human aspect to it that has been easier for the group to buy into.
In the back on the right, Amy.
Evan, you've been in this spot before in the playoffs, but Mike has not. What would be your best piece of advice for him?
To enjoy it. It's been like 8 years, since I've been to the postseason. So, that's feels like another lifetime ago. So I'm just really appreciative to have the opportunity again to play in the postseason. And this is going to be an unbelievable way to kick it off. This series is going to be a madhouse at both places. And from what I understand, this is the first time that the Giants and the Dodgers have ever met in the postseason somehow. So, that just kind of adds fuel to the fire. So just really try and soak it all in. I can't even tell you my last playoff memory. That's how like far ago it seems, and how quickly it goes when you're there. So, just enjoy it.
Down here, Susan.
Evan, I hope you can remember back, because I'm going to lean on your playoff experience too. So you've been part of so many, and I think in 2008 you guys had maybe 3 days off before your first round started. What happens to the offense when you have 3 or 4 days off? Can it be like an all-star break? Are there concerns about getting bats going? How do you handle that?
I think there's obviously sometimes there is concerns about having some rust built up, but I think this group, other than the last game, we were kind of spinning our wheels a little bit offensively, and so I think this can be a good way to kind of reset and refocus on the plan and go out there and hopefully turn it on offensively.
Far left, Thomas.
Evan, at the end of last season when this team kind of threatened to make the playoffs and didn't, did you, though, have the feel that this team could go this far? And I do want to follow up after this.
Going into the offseason, with some of the pieces that we were losing, you never really know what's going to happen. I felt like last year we had a really good shot, especially at the halfway point. I feel like every team felt like they had a shot last year. It was completely different. And then coming into this year, looking at a 162-game season, I think through the first probably quarter of the season, there was some question marks. We set out in the beginning of the spring to be a team that could win the division, and Gabe touched on it in his little post-ceremony talk out there. Like, we really did say that, but sometimes you have to go out and do it to believe it. And I think once we started winning, that belief just grew, and mean, it just kind of took on a life of its own.
And you are a veteran of postseason, but it was a while ago. Do you think that maybe when you walk out there tomorrow, there'll be some extra jitters, almost like the first time?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think that that's normal for anybody, you know, whether you've been going every year or, you know, it's your first time. It's a completely different thing from the regular season. You know, it's probably comparable to like opening day, but every day, you know, you have opening day again and again. I mean, we're dealing with the media in here, which is, you know, completely different. We're going to have, you know, 2 or 3 times the media on the field before games. It's just like this whole nother thing that happens in the postseason that it's enjoyable. It's different. It's a cool experience.
Down here in the front.
Yeah, Evan, just following up with what you opened with, just in terms of the structure of the playoffs. If you were an all-powerful commissioner for a day, how would you structure the playoffs?
I mean, I don't even really know. I just feel like there's 2 teams that, you know, win this many games. It seems early to match up, you know, us 2. But I mean, I'm always for, you know, having more teams in the playoffs. I think it engages more fan bases. I mean, obviously we had those discussions with the league before, and that's, you know, something that I think is, you know, potentially always on the table. But you know, it seems like some sort of ranking system based on wins, and I know all that's going to take realigning the divisions and changing all of that. But you know, that was, I guess, my way to stir the pot in terms of, you know, trying to figure out some other way to match up teams that have, you know, had this much success in the regular season. Like I said, it just seems early for one of us to have to go home, you know.
Okay, Tim.
For Mike, obviously, Evan has talked about his playoff experience. You've got teammates who've won multiple championships here. Do you discuss what this is going to be like? Do you feel like maybe you felt a little bit of it in the previous Dodgers series? How are you approaching what this is going to feel like tomorrow?
Just kind of taking it in stride right now. You know, haven't really thought about the emotional side of it until we get there. You know, if you get too far ahead of yourself and get too lost in the future, then you're going to kind of miss out on these opportunities that you have to recover and to get yourself right. But I imagine it's going to feel a lot like the last couple games of the season, because we were in a situation where it felt like we were fighting for our lives. You know, it's like we needed to win those games in order to be in the situation that we wanted to, and that creates a different environment. And I think that we handled it as best we could. You know, we didn't get too high on the highs, we didn't get too low on the win the day before the last day of the or the loss before the last day of the season. And I think those things are going to really help us who don't have the playoff experience really understand what it might feel like. So we're just going to try and lean on the past couple games and assume that it's going to feel pretty similar.
Susan?
This is for both or either of you. All year you guys have really maximized the way the roster has been used, whether it's because of injuries or recent moves or matchup sort of things. How much of that, the fact that the 26-man roster seems like it's kind of constantly in use, how much of that has contributed to, you know, the chemistry you guys all talk about and the selflessness? How do you see the way the roster, and how unusual is it to employ the roster the way you guys have this year?
I mean, I think that was something that we all knew was going to happen at the outset of the spring. You know, there were very few kind of positions that were set in stone, and so you know, from the beginning, this group of, you know, 35, 40 guys like has really just been able to kind of come together and kind of breed that selflessness. You know, knowing that like in the 3rd or the 4th or the 5th inning, you know, you could be coming out and pinch hit for. And I think you see a lot of that success in the guys that were coming off the bench. You know, like I think we set a record for home run, you know, pinch hit home runs this year. Our average off the bench, the guys that came in, was, you know, through the roof. Just like preparedness from top to bottom, all contributed to the winning and to the kind of just the culture of the club.
I think a lot of that credit, too, real quick, is that we have to give a lot of the credit to our staff in terms of the preparation, you know, the way that they make you feel before you go into that at-bat. And the hitting coaches give you every detail of information that they know that you need. You know, we talked about analytics earlier, but bringing in the human aspect that they've done so well and let them know what we like to know, and they got to the point where they don't even need to ask us what information we want. They already know it ahead of time. So for Donnie it's going to be different than for me, then it's going to be different for Longo, and they understand that and really care about that. So to put in that much effort from those guys has really contributed to that.
Down here in front.
Marcus Thompson with The Athletic. Mike, Logan is a guy who, he had to work his way here. He earned this. Now he's, game one pitcher. What about him makes you think he's ready for this? What about his personality, his demeanor that assures you he'll be ready for it?
The thing about Webby that I'm sure most of you guys know is he's the same guy every single day. He's a big goofball who shows up with a big goofy smile on his face every day, in a good mood. No moment alters that. Whether it's a big one, whether it's a small one, he wants to go out there and compete. And when you have a guy who's that consistent with their personality and their approach to getting ready for the game and how they compete, it's the easiest route to believing in someone and having confidence to play defense behind them, knowing they'll get the job done.
Okay, right here in the middle, Chris.
Chris Haff, San Francisco Examiner. Mike, you witnessed Yankees, Red Sox as a spectator, and now you've gone through Giants, Dodgers as a participant. Any way to compare the two rivalries?
It's kind of tough because one of them I was a fan, so I feel like I was much more emotionally involved. You ride highs and lows so hard as a fan. When you win a big game, when you lose a big game. As a player, it's completely different. You have to find a way to stay even keel. So it's been a completely different experience, but both are so fun to be a part of and so intense that it feels like every game matters throughout the entire season. Those games in early May feel like they're a September game. So it's been really cool to see both sides of that and just be a part of it.